We hope you like this video. Just subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of more content just like this. We're back, and the great thing about it is we're all well. Charlie McCann's in Gibraltar, looking magnificent, looking like a cucumber on legs, as always. John Richardson's tucked away in... did you survive? I can't remember. Was it Storm Christoph, Rico? Did you survive all that? What was going on up there?
Tell you what, it seemed... Whatever storm seems to reserve itself for Saturdays. I've never been cold this winter. Every Saturday seems to be snow or -3. And it's forecast again tomorrow when I'm at in Charlie's neck of the woods, at Goodison Park. So, warm.
Hey, listen, the good thing is we're all okay. We've got so much to talk about this week. Frank Lampard obviously being sacked, Thomas Tuchel taking over. But let's start with last night's game. And, well, Liverpool back on song, Rico, you'd have to say.
I have to tip my hat to Charlie here. Right at the beginning, he said it will be between two clubs, the title race, Liverpool and Manchester City. And I was saying, it could be more open. It could be Tottenham, Chelsea, Leicester, whatever. Charlie, spot on. It's going to be between these two. And Liverpool showed last night why they are still very much involved. It was a very professional display. They were under pressure. I mean, Jurgen Klopp was under pressure. No, it's ridiculous to say that, but these are the expectations now on Liverpool, and they passed with flying colours last night. I must say though, I thought Tottenham, started very much on the back foot. A back five. I mean, what gets into Josie sometimes, I don't know, because that team, as we've said all through the season, is a good attacking unit. If the handbrake is released, and it wasn't last night, but Liverpool could only play what they were playing, and they played excellent. There was some outstanding performances. I thought Gini Wijnaldum was excellent last night. Looks like he's going to move on in the summer. I think that we can talk about that a bit later, but I think that's will be a loss to Liverpool. Thiago played well, and also the front three were buzzing again, which hasn't been the case. Everybody looks at the defence and they say, there's a problem in the centre defence. I think the problem for the last few weeks is the front three have been misfiring. But last night, they did well and they fully deserved it.
Charlie, with a performance like that, is it surprising the blip, should we call it, that Liverpool have been going through?
They played a very ordinary Spurs side and a poor team selection as well. You've got Doherty's probably never played there in his life. The whole thing was he's bonkers, isn't he? I mean, that was a massive game for them. I mean, they weren't going to win the league, and I don't know. Hugo Lloris's, that was a desperate. I mean, why didn't he save the first one, let alone the second one? When you go in at 0-0, it's a massive difference as well. And he knows his side's underperformed, but of course, his what he says at halftime is so much different. When you think Liverpool scored their first goal in the 49th minute and the second goal in the 46th. It was, but they were very, very poor. I'm sorry, Liverpool just got, haven't had the breaks. They got a little bit of the breaks, but they were far, far too good for. But I think something's wrong there at Spurs to put up a display like that. Can you imagine if that would have been a full house? I just the whole sort of selection was wrong. What's happened to Lucas Moura? The Bale thing is extraordinary. Bale is so far down the pecking order at Spurs, and what's happened to Alderweireld? It's as if Mourinho came on defensively to say Rodon played well. Did he? Played well. Eric Dyer was poor. Every one of them, every single one of them. Maybe the Højbjerg was not only his goal, which of course he's not there for, but he was the main threat. But I thought, sorry, I'm not a Spurs fan. I don't think it's a great team. It's probably good enough to beat Everton in a couple of weeks' time in the FA Cup. But Liverpool back on track. Has the title already gone to? We were talking about this is going to be the greatest, the most competitive Premier League title race for years, for decades, whatever. It's possible that Manchester City could win by 10 points.
I think it is a fantastically close title race.
No, it isn't.
Manchester City. Well, I mean, Manchester City apart, I think it's been fascinating. It was a fascinating week of football. Just a couple of things, Rico, on the Spurs Liverpool game. One, Harry Kane looks like he's out for a few weeks, ankle injuries. Just a word on Thiago, Rico. I can't believe he's been getting critics because he's hardly played. What was your take on him last night?
I thought he was excellent last night. I thought he put himself about. He
can't tackle. He cannot tackle. He's Paul Scholes on the tackling front.
No, puts himself about. I mean, moving about the pitch. I thought he was influential. He's a good player. I don't know why anybody says the other. I mean, what they're expecting from him. All right, he's a different player to Jordan Henderson. He's more attacking minded. He's not so defensive. But I mean, I think he's a good addition. It's a squad game after all, isn't it? As we know, we're going to talk about. You have injuries, and
Harry Kane. I mean,
somebody who can slot in without any problems. That's what I was trying to say.
And Harry Kane, a bitter blow for Spurs.
That's a worry, because that's not the first time he's had a problem. I think there's a long-standing problem there, which is going to recur. He's had ankle ligament. It's probably ankle ligaments, isn't it? He's had this before, and that is a worry also to both ankles, which is surprising. So yeah, I mean, he is their talisman, hasn't he? And I concur with what Charlie said about Tottenham. I mean, right, they should be doing a lot better than they're doing, and you've got to look at Jose's tactics. I mean, also, nobody's mentioned Dele Alli. I mean, is Dele Alli not good enough for that team? Lucas Moura is one of my favourite players. I think, on Blob, he's a fantastic attacker. I mean, Son has been their most consistent player. He's been superb. But as Charlie said, fiddling about with that defence, what is going on?
To be fair, the eyes of the world, not least the eyes of Zoomers, is on Goodison Park this weekend for the biggest game of the season so far, without question, which is Everton against Newcastle. It's the first game of the weekend, lunchtime kick-off. Charlie McCann.
Yeah, it'd be interesting as well. Everton played, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, and you haven't seen Ancelotti actually moan.
To be fair, they only played for half a game against Leicester, didn't they?
They got a chasing for at least 45 minutes. It is. Can you imagine Manchester City or Herr Klopp? Jesus, you wouldn't hear the last of it, would you, if Liverpool had been asked to play at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock rather on Sunday, midweek, and then. But it was 3 home games, and so and I think it's fair to say the Sheffield Wednesday game didn't take a lot out of them. Chalk and cheese, you would imagine, the Everton displays, because of course, whereas they defended and treated really Leicester with far too much respect, good team though, Leicester are a really good team. When it went to 1-1, Everton had 3 or 4 chances late on, and you just wonder what might have been. But Everton treated Leicester City as if Leicester City were Manchester City or indeed Liverpool. Can't happen, of course, tomorrow. Everton will want revenge for what was an unlucky defeat, the penalty and the deflected goal at St James's Park. But the fact that Everton are one of is it just 2 teams who've lost to Newcastle so far this season? Everton can't play that back 4. They're going to have to play Coleman at right back, and you would imagine Digne at left back. So who comes in they've got 4 excellent, outstanding sort of defenders. Can James, a big thing, he looked really, really leggy on Wednesday night. Can he play again? You'd like to think Everton would win, but I wouldn't be backing them, and they're heavy odds-on favourites for the game. I wouldn't be backing them. Although you look at Newcastle United, and gee whiz, they are in the relegation fight now, I would suggest.
Rico, I mean, we'll talk about Frank Lampard very shortly, but every week we say Steve Bruce is under pressure. He's under more pressure. Brought in Graham Jones, interestingly, as first team coach. But I've done my little stats. I know you love your stats. They've not won at Goodison since 2011. They've scored 1 goal in 8 games, 2 goals in 8 games. No win in 8 in the Premier League. They've lost 8 out of 10. I think we can safely say the form's not great.
Where do I start? It's just shocking. I like Steve Bruce as a person, but it's he starts with that. We're talking about Jose Mourinho early, talking about that with the handbrake. Stevie Bruce starts in reverse. No, it's usually 5 at the back, and they don't get going until they're 1 or 2-0 down. I mean, look at the game against Leeds. First half, absolutely appalling. Didn't have a go. Second half, took the handbrake off, started pushing forward. Alan San-Maximin came on. They're a different team. So tomorrow, he's got 2 choices. Does he start with the back 5? If he does, then it's Everton. Everton all day long. If he starts with a back 4 and starts with players like Ryan Fraser, Alan San-Maximin, Callum Wilson, obviously, then they'll have a go and it'll be a decent game. But too often, Brucey is so negative, it's untrue. And that's why he's got the fans on his back. Newcastle fans are used to losing games. We're immune to all the hardship, all the pain, but the Newcastle fans expect their teams to have a go. All right, it's not going to be the Kevin Keegan entertainers, but at least have a go. There are some good attacking players. Almiron, Alan San-Maximin, as I've mentioned, Ryan Fraser. They are attacking players who can damage teams, but quite often these players are sent on too late. I mean, Alan San-Maximin has had COVID for 2 months. He's only just come back, and he's been a sad miss. So really, Brucey, to save his soul, has got to start on the front foot tomorrow and have a go. If that's not good enough, you hold your hands up and say, well done, Everton. But too many games, back to Sheffield United. They even started on the back foot against Sheffield United, and Sheffield United won their first Premier League game. Now, as far as the boardroom is concerned, Steve Bruce isn't under tremendous pressure. All he has to do is keep them in the Premier League. But he's very lucky that there's no fans in grounds at the moment. Otherwise, abuse will be hurled at him, I'm afraid. He's got to have a go tomorrow.
I think it will be. Doucouré will be back for Everton.
Sorry, go on.
Doucouré will be back for Everton, and there's a possibility that Alan might be back as well for Everton. So that would certainly boost Everton's midfield as well. I agree with John. I think they've got to have a go at Everton tomorrow, and if they do have a go, Everton are far too short in the betting for me. Everton, we are not as good as what Ancelotti's done. He's ground out results. It's famously, absolutely, tremendously. What he has achieved. But I do think that if Newcastle have a go, but as you say, if they sit back and let Rodriguez play in front of them and think they may be in for a long afternoon. But if San-Maximin is a big threat.
Last word on the Everton-Leicester game. We were chatting during it, Charlie. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I thought it was fascinating. We really like James Justin, I think we safely say, who's just beginning to stick his head above the parapet in terms of people recognising, and Gareth Southgate was there at the game. I loved Wesley Fofana's performance as well as some good performances around. But you're a Justin fan, aren't you?
Oh, massive. I love the idea that he could sort of play as well anywhere along the back 4. Really, he could play in a back 3. He, he's the one person. Brendan Rodgers, really, I think he rested him for the FA Cup game, but that's about it. He plays in Europe. He's played in all the Euro games in Europe. He's played in the Premier League. He can play right back. He can play one of the 3 central defenders. He can play left. Did you see him when he got forward as well? He scored a goal in the Premier League, cutting in from the left early on in the season. He nearly got a goal at Goodison. We are blessed. Gareth Southgate is blessed with. When you think Foden, when you think Grealish, etc., done that sort of more offensively. But if you're talking about a utility player who could get under the radar, Justin, I'm a massive Justin fan. And it was nice to see Southgate there.
Can I just say something about Brendan Rodgers? I think Brendan Rodgers is one of the best coaches, managers in Europe. I think he was airbrushed out of Liverpool's history. People forget that he almost won the league, and Liverpool fans, I don't know, you speak to them and they don't even mention him, and I think that's very harsh. But he's developed into a fantastic coach, did well at Celtic, That Leicester team, they've got some superb players. Agree with what Charlie's just said about Justin. I mean, they're just great to watch. They're great to watch. They're easy on the eye. Harvey Barnes, superb player. And he's been brought, through by Brendan. I'd just like to give Brendan Rodgers some credit. I mean, if I was Chelsea or I was Arsenal, then he would be my next manager.
Rico, I said it was the last word on Leicester. James Maddison, Jack Grealish, Mason Mount. You mentioned Barnes. I mean, that's a pecking order. I think Charlie threw somebody else in there. That kind of player. I mean, Phil Foden. Who gets the nod? I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches, isn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. Good headache for Gareth Southgate to have. I mean, you'd rather have more than less. And the good thing is they're all young players. I mean, I think we all agree that, Jack Grealish is our man. I think Jack Grealish, again, against Burnley was fantastic in midweek.
Great game, wasn't it, that?
Actually, yeah, delighted for Burnley, but Villa should have won it. And Grealish should have been on the winning side. Yeah, it is an embarrassment of riches, but the good thing is they're all young, they're all hungry. And Gareth, most of the players he's had, he's brought them through, isn't he, in under 21s, years ago. Yeah, it's a fantastic armoury to have, and long may it continue.
Here's one for you, Charlie. I've been because we've been off air a little bit for various reasons. Come up. This is the one I've been itching to ask, which was raised by Mr. McCann in a WhatsApp call, and it's something that I've talked about for years, and actually in connection with people like Lionel Messi and what have you. Why don't people go and out man mark Jack Grealish?
Can't. Impossible.
You can stop him getting the ball, and you stop him getting the ball. You stop it at source because you prevent him getting. You can't have him get the ball and run at you because you know what the outcome is. What you do, you play. You man mark him and you prevent the ball getting to him. You get under his skin. You play. He doesn't have to be a great footballer. This guy. He's got to be an athlete. Just an athlete. To stop almost the ball getting to Grealish. Grealish should never, in my opinion, get the ball wide on the left and then run at people because you've already put your arms up and say, I can't stop him because he's that good. Now, why 20, 30 years on has this gone out of the game? It used to be, everyone used to man mark the greats. Certainly, in midfield, John, you'd be well aware of, some great teams. And in basketball, you obviously sometimes play. You play man for man all the time now, but going through the years, we'd always play a box and one, and somebody who you don't have and of course in Catenaccio when it was man for man and a sweeper, you've got to man for man. What mark? Jack Grealish, he's that good. He can't run at me because if he runs at me, I don't know which way he's going, and he just gets fouled. And then people ridiculously say he dives and things like that. He dived once at West Ham this year. The other times he just gets booted over hill and dale.
I mean, that was Nobby Stiles, wasn't it? He was told to man mark players. Yeah, Bobby Charlton was told to man mark Franz Beckenbauer in the World Cup final.
Well, I'm thinking more latterly. I'm trying to think about it because I've always said, when it was goals on Sunday sitting with Cammy, I go, why doesn't somebody just stand on Lionel Messi? Literally, that should. I mean, Phil Neville did it for Fergie. We were talking about Fergie before. Phil Neville is the one that I can last think of who at times went and man marked. That's your job. Forget everything else. Just stand on. Was it? I can't remember. Was it Vieira or what? Different times. Phil Neville would go, and that was his job. And it was interesting. Me and Charlie were chatting. I don't know why you don't get just because Jack is that good. Is get someone and go. What they used to say. If he goes for a half time, we go and follow him into the toilets. Didn't they used to? That's what they used to do. Why not?
Well, it's different, isn't it? It's something that, surely...
It's something different. You're right. There's the word. It's something different.
That's it. Why? But I just think Grealish is so good, you cannot allow him to turn and run at you. So to do that, you stop him getting the ball. You
frustrate him.
And you get under his skin, you frustrate him and things. But to do that, you've got to have somebody who is an athlete, probably intelligent as well. But to stop got the Douglas Luizes of this world firing it into his feet because he's got no space. He hasn't even got a yard of space. This guy, the man marker, it happens in other sports, of course. Let's say in basketball as well.
Basketball, yeah.
And you tried to, the greats and Michael and Kobe and things like that, and LeBron now and Giannis. You stop them getting it at source because of you. If they get it, you snook it. He's too strong. He's too powerful. In Grealish's case, he's just, in my opinion, a genius.
Okay, you heard it. You heard it here first. We'll watch with interest. I'm with you. I think it's different coaching methods, and well, I mean that goes back, but it's not been seen for a while. It's different. Rico, Frank Lampard, should he have been sacked?
No, absolutely ridiculous. It's his first blip. You're not allowed to have a blip in football. Jurgen Klopp's just had a blip. Has he been sacked? Of course he hasn't. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We keep on about this, his roller coaster. He's still riding the ride, and quite right too. I mean, Frank Lampard is a young manager who had a great season last season. I'm afraid he's lost his job because of the summer transfers. They spent 220 million, and they expected obviously to challenge for the title, which they were until December, and they've had a bad run. But I know for a fact that some of those summer buys weren't his. They were foisted on him. So so he's got them there. Surely give him till the end of the season and then have a rethink. The only thing is, of course, that Chelsea have done this every season under Abramovich. They've looked at their managers. Tuchel is their 15th manager, but they've won 16 trophies. So you can't really argue with that. So yes, Roman Abramovich it's been the most successful Chelsea period ever under his stewardship. So from that point of view, you can't argue with it. But from Frank Lampard's point of view, he'd be sitting at home, feeling very hard done by and thinking he should have had more time. Charlie?
If he didn't get sacked now, he would get sacked. He wasn't particularly great at Derby County. He was sort of accelerated promotion because of who he was. At the same time, so is you could argue is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and as John so rightly said, he sort of has turned it round. But trophies are the thing. The interesting thing, of course, when Chelsea won the Champions League, didn't Di Matteo come, wherever. And at the same time, you can't see that squad of players aren't good enough. It's as simple as that. Tuchel's first team selection as well, I thought was bizarre. But I don't know really. Tuchel, I know is highly thought of what he will bring to Chelsea. All I know is that I'm fed up people telling me that this lad from Ajax has got a wand of a left foot. And I'm fed up people telling me, and Ndombele's, they only come into the game once every 25 minutes. A good midfield player, somebody like Jack Grealish, or somebody like Thiago Alcantara, or somebody like Kevin De Bruyne. That's a good player. These fellas aren't good enough. John's absolutely right. Who bought them? I don't know. I wouldn't think Frank knows his Bundesliga as well as some, shall we say. But Havertz, Werner, just not good enough. Just not. And to buy Thiago Silva, and is that Chelsea? Would you see Liverpool would have done it? I would imagine when Virgil van Dijk got injured, but not as the way forward, surely. But that whole thing, there's something not right at Chelsea.
Well, just on that subject that Charlie's just talked about, Frank wanted James Tarkowski from Burnley. Now, far better player, but Thiago Silva was foisted on him, because of who he is and everything, and he had to get on with that. By the way, watching that Chelsea Wolves game, I don't know if you boys watched that.
Yeah,
it's the most boring 90 minutes I think I've ever seen this. It was possession, but it wasn't getting anywhere. It was I cannot stand football like that. It's Arsenal at the very worst. 20 passes when Tuchel do. It was just nauseating.
And
that's why
Tammy Abraham scored a hat-trick and got dropped.
Yeah.
That just seems strange. There's a
Mason Mount's been the best player.
And Mason Mount, sorry, I think Mason Mount is a hell of a player. He's not in the same class as me as Foden and Grealish.
No.
More than once, but he's a bloody. Then when I saw the team sheet and he wasn't in, and I said, and Abraham wasn't in, I was saying, what's he trying to say with his? And then he made some inane remarks at the end of the game about people knocking on his door or something. You know, I just thought, wow. I think people are likely to be upset if I scored a hat-trick and Olivier Giroud, who scored hat-tricks and been dropped okay in the Champions League early in the season, but I thought that was daft.
When we're talking about different and man-marking, whatever, I think Burnley are different. I love the Burnley-Villa game for so many reasons. Great for Jack Grealish, but Tarkowski and me are still underrated for me. I've also said that Brighton play great football but can't score, which has been proved again. But I want to ask you, Rico, first of all, when we're talking about managers, and Frank Lampard's sitting there hard done by, I think David Moyes, who was regarded as the bright young thing possibly, and coming man, certainly at Manchester United, his reputation tarnished, and suddenly he's now the great thing again. Has he changed that much?
Well, no, he hasn't, has he? But people are now accepting him. He's been given time. I mean, time's
the key.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, his reputation was tarnished by what happened at Manchester United. But there again, we haven't got time to go into it. But he was denied the players he wanted. It was poison chalice, after Alex Ferguson. Anybody going in after Alex Ferguson would have a problem, just as we've seen after Arsene Wenger, at Arsenal. If you're in situ for 20 odd years, it's very hard to change things. And the next guy along has got that problem. In answer, I mean, David Moyes, he's a top class manager. He knows what he's doing. And he's proved that at West Ham. But even now, you talk to some West Ham fans, they're not over the moon with David Moyes. I don't know why. Is it does he lack charisma as far as they're concerned? I couldn't care less. I mean, I know David Moyes well. It's a cliche, but he's a real football man. He's doing a hell of a job. And they're talking now about, begrudgingly, in some respects, about a new contract. Why? In the top four, for God's sake. He's done a brilliant
well, I can't believe nobody's picked up on the fact that Mikel Antonio's shorts are retro. Certainly Paolo Di Canio. I mean,
Ferdinand.
He's the one. He's cut his shorts, and he's. Di Canio said. When I asked Di Canio about why do you wear those shorts, he goes, "I love looking at my thighs. I feel powerful." I don't know if Mikel's gone the same way, but the other fella that fascinates me, and once again will never win any brownie points for being easy on the eyes, is Thomas Soucek, who's almost he's got to be one of the most effective midfielders. There is no way you could call him beautiful in terms of the way he looks, but defensively, he's one of he's a throwback, Charlie, for getting in the box, isn't he? He's very much on everything.
Interesting. He's very much Marouane Fellaini for me as well. Yeah. Very good in both. That knows how to use his height as well. Both and scores very good goals. And of course, it's who brought Fellaini and David at Everton as well. But it was one fella. Sorry, I should have. We went through Foden, etc. Foden, Grealish, Mason. We haven't mentioned Saka at Arsenal.
Yeah.
I was coming on to. I was going to ask you: is Emile Smith? The other thing, why is everybody's going Emile Smith Rowe? He's been there for years. Everybody's known about him, and then suddenly said he's why wasn't he in earlier? But Bukayo Saka, I was coming on to with Arsenal, he's got to be the real deal, hasn't he?
Where'd you play him? Would he be wasted at left back? I mean,
he's a James Justin of the forwards, isn't he?
Exactly. He is somebody else who just you when he gets the ball, you straight away you're on the edge of your seat. He is, and he's
fantastic.
Got everything. He's got everything, and
he's got a bit of nastiness in him as well, which I like.
You can be a little bit feisty. Be interesting. We should have something now. Who's going to finish top London club in the Premier League?
Good question. Tottenham.
Rob?
I'm literally chucking me out in the air, and I'd go with Rico. But you know, I mean, West Ham.
Charlie's going to say Arsenal.
I'm going to say Arsenal.
Hmm.
I'm going to say Arsenal because I do think surprisingly now, I can see more shoots there at Arsenal than I can at Chelsea or Spurs, or indeed, you know, West Ham have done famously well.
I forgot about West Ham.
Yeah.
But I think
it's
a fascinating market. I think it's a fascinating, you know, who's going to be top London club.
We're slightly running out of time, but just a couple of ones I want to throw in. When you're talking about that, the James Maddison, the Jack Grealish, the Mason Mount, what about the goalkeeping situation where you've got Nick Pope, obviously you've got Pickford. I mean, the fellow at Southampton, Alex McCarthy, has been absolutely outstanding. I'm missing a few. There's, you know, it's like, who else? Tom Eaton's obviously injured, but who else? There's some outstanding goalkeepers at the. Your man at Newcastle, Carl Darlow, surely has got to be knocking on the door. I mean, they've been outstanding goalkeepers. Dean Henderson at Manchester United.
Yeah. I think Nick Pope's the best of them for me. I think he's more consistent, but they say that he's not very good with the ball at his feet.
Yeah,
old-fashioned. Yeah. It's about saving goals for me, but there we go. Pickford can be absolutely brilliant at times, but as we know, can mess up. I think the most consistent one is Nick Pope.
Charlie?
It certainly wouldn't be Pickford, however good his left foot is and things like that. No, your goalkeeper, there's nothing wrong with having a goalkeeper who's the best goalkeeper, rather than somebody who can ping the ball to Trent Alexander-Arnold and Ben Chilwell, or indeed Richardson Saka. No, it would be Pope for me, although I don't think, let's put it right, we are blessed with as good a flock of goalkeepers as you think. Yeah, if we're looking at the Grealishes, the Fodens, the Mason Mounts, the Saka, I don't think these goalkeepers are in that league by any way, shape or form. No, I think Pope might be the best of a bad bunch, if I was being honest.
Okay, listen, thanks, lads. Charlie, have you got a surefire tip for the weekend, horse?
I've only just started on Saturday because Cheltenham are 50-50 to be racing. They've got a 2:00 inspection. Right. I think Captain Orr will, between Captain Orr and there's a Nick Williams horse I'm looking at for the Sky Bet Chase. That's the big race at Doncaster. We're looking forward to Shishkin as well. But we've had a really good week. We had a lovely...
no, so is that the Royal week or is that the Charlie week? Any chance?
It's the Charlie. Well, we had an 18-1 winner in the desert yesterday in Maidan. Yeah, Ayati. With Mikhail Barcelona in the saddle, 18-1. You don't need much on at 18-1, but we've had a good week, I must say.
I've got a definite faller for you. The 12:30. It's called. It's running in black and white with blinkers.
You never know. Alan said best when fresh. Take care, guys. Have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, fellas, take care.
Right.